It's great to be here. Took me no time at all to get here. I'm home. So I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank all the people who've helped me get to this point. You can't be successful unless there are other people who want you to be successful. So all my patrons, all my fans, I want to thank you. This is happening because of you. As you see on the first slide there, you know, bridge music just uses the sounds of the Mid-Hudson Bridge. There are no other instruments, no bells or guitars or drums, bass guitars. It's all sounds sampled from the bridge. So before I start talking about it, let's just hear a little bit. This is like a 1.5-minute excerpt. This is the overture that opens the album. So I wanted it to be like a big brash calling card for bridge music. And it uses all the sounds that are on the bridge, but we're just going to hear like a 1.5-minute excerpt. And it's entitled Meltdown, from a quote that I've always liked by the German poet Goethe, who said, architecture is frozen music. So I thought I would take the architecture of the bridge and melt it back down into sound. So here we go with bridge music. Okay, so we're back. I might want to caution some of you, if you have your mics on while the music is sounding, it's going to cut into the audio. So you might just want to, you know, mute yourself while we're listening to the music. How it all began. I have a solo percussion project. I'm trained on the pipe organ. That's my primary instrument. But when I was 45 years old, my wife gave me a gift of a gong. And being a composer, I knew there were so many other kinds of gongs besides this one, which I loved. But I wanted to start, you know, collecting them and writing music with them. And that project is known as the Bronze Collection, which you see me. I'm sitting here. This is, you know, all different kinds of gongs on that side. Over here we got cymbals and drums and everything. And so I wrote music for this unique collection of gongs. And I was out giving concerts. And one day I came back and I was pretty beat because it's a very physical thing to play these. And I was lying down. I was all tuckered out. My wife was talking to me, mimicking the way I look when I play. When I play these things, I'm like this. And we had a poster of the Eiffel Tower in our house, and she was standing next to it. And she went bong, took a swing at it, and a light bulb went off in my head. And I said, you know, that would work. Everything vibrates. All you'd have to do is sample all the sounds of the Eiffel Tower and collect them and write music with them. So I was pretty excited about this new project I was going to embark on, except I immediately realized I didn't speak French. I didn't have any contacts in Paris, but I liked the concept. So I thought, why don't I try to do something in this country? And at the time, the Henry Hudson Quadricentennial was 5 years in the future. So I thought maybe I could do a bridge. Gustave Eiffel was a bridge builder, bridge engineer, and I thought that would be a good analog to the Eiffel Tower. And also, 5 years would give me enough time to make this happen, and I could tap into any collateral publicity that would be going on with the Quadricentennial. So I approached the New York State Bridge Authority. First, I got some books and I started studying bridge construction. I got some very technical books. I wanted to be able to present this idea in an intelligent way to the engineers who, 201, thought this was a crazy idea. I got some children's books on bridge building so I could understand them. And I made an appointment and I met with them. And what I would like to do now is cut away for about 5.5 minutes to a video, which pretty much takes you onto the bridge and takes you into the studio before bridge music became a sound art installation. So we'll go to that now. It's about 5.5 minute video, and then we'll pick it up after that.
Do you want the New York Times, Jeff? Joe?
Yes, please. I got the idea to play the Mid-Hudson Bridge in New York as an instrument back at the end of 2004. Changing mallets!
Composer and musician Joseph Bertolozzi is recording hundreds of sounds from the Franklin D. Roosevelt Bridge, also known as the Mid-Hudson Bridge in Poughkeepsie, New York, so he can write a series of songs for a live performance on the bridge in 2 years.
We were very skeptical at first. We didn't really understand that you could get enough different sounds to be able to compose any kind of a song.
How can a bridge be an instrument? Well, it has many different surfaces. It has panels and spindles and guardrails and cables, and each of those surfaces have a different vibrating property.
Bertolozzi hired sound engineer Ron Kuhnke to help him make a 2-minute demo reel.
Everybody else that I said, I'm out recording the bridge, and they're like, huh? What do you mean, recording the bridge? I said, yeah, we're putting pickups on the bridge and we're recording it and we're going to make music out of it.
I thought it was crazy. First time I heard about it, I thought it sounded kind of insane. Didn't know how somebody could play the bridge. But then once Joe started to make some recordings with it, it actually came together and sounded like something.
Hey, go ahead!
What I want to do is write a piece, like maybe 45, 60-minute suite of music using the bridge itself as an instrument, not having other musicians, violinists or flutes or whatever playing, but using the bridge itself as the instrument.
Bertolozzi plans to station 22 percussionists armed with hammers and mallets at various locations on the bridge for the live performance.
Let me hear these. When I'm trying to find these notes. I'm trying to catalog them in terms of like do, re, mi. So, like I said, I might find do on a surface below the bridge. I might find re, the next note, on a spindle 100 feet away from that, and I might find mi somewhere else.
Okay. That was a suspender rope.
Like 150 foot long.
Right, the 150 foot long suspender rope.
Right, sounds like a punch.
Okay, go change mallets.
You can hardly hear those strokes with the rubber mallet out here, but the contact microphone picks up the vibrations of the surface it's attached to. So even out here, you can hardly hear it. Inside with the mics, it's got like a ring to it or a tone to it.
Okay, next one.
Bertolozzi estimates he now has 300 different sounds from the bridge. He's getting to know them so well that when he's at home composing, he does it in silence.
When I compose, it's pretty cerebral. Here's an idea I got. This is actually a rhythm.
So how would you sing that?
Well, this is being played on the towers with these big logs that we have. All right, and they're going to be on a special machine that we're going to have to design. So they're going to be able to have these logs hitting in close proximity, and that's going to be just like a dum 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 dum. That's this right here. This software here is where the sounds that we recorded on the bridge resides. Now right here we're looking at one of the posts for the guardrail, and down here you can see the waveform. It's a very even sound. Now one thing I could do is I could take these notes, and with the beauty of electronics, I could make a whole scale out of that one sound and play. But the bridge doesn't have those notes. The bridge only has that note right there on that post. I'm making the electronic file so you can hear the music as I'm writing it. But the real essence of bridge music is to play the bridge live as an instrument.
Bertolozzi expects the entire project to cost $1.8 million, much of which he hopes to raise through contributions. He's hoping the final live performance will take place in September 2009 as part of the 400th anniversary celebrations of Henry Hudson's sail up the Hudson River.
Okay, Joe, back to you.
Okay, I think we're another slide up, or are we in the right place here?
In the right place.
Okay. I've never done this before, so sorry, Zoomsters. I'm getting used. Well, you heard at the end of that video that this was going to cost almost $2 million, which I thought wouldn't have been a problem with corporate funding for such a important event for New York State. So I was looking for corporate sponsorship, of course, and I had made some headway with Rolling Rock, actually Live Nation, and Sony. In the end, those things didn't all pan out, but thank you, Alex. Thank you, Wes. Thank you, Chris. But what happened was I learned that corporate sponsorship usually they commit their advertising dollars a year in advance by quarter. So this was going to go up in the year 2009, which means that I had to start in the summer of 2008. Well, if you recall, 2008 was when we were introduced to a character on the world stage named Bernie Madoff. And one day, I'm on the phone with my contact from Rolling Rock, Wes, And actually, I decided to call him because I was seeing all these things were happening in the news, and it was getting pretty, a lot of unrest. And I thought I just better touch base. So I called, and the phone picks up, and there's all this screaming and yelling, and I thought I had the wrong number. So I'm going, Wes, hello. And he's like, oh, who's this? And I said, this is Joe Bertolozzi. And he goes, Joe, we're putting out fires left and right here. You better call me back. And I said, can I call you in a couple of days? He goes, sure. So we hung up. I go back to my computer screen, and on the bottom, I see the news feed shows that the Belgian company InBev had just initiated a hostile takeover of Anheuser-Busch, which owns Rolling Rock. So he picked up the phone like a couple of seconds or a minute after they got the information. And I was hearing that like happen in real time. So I waited a couple days, and I called him back. Phone was disconnected. Luckily, I had this guy's cell phone. So I waited a week, and I called him back. And he said, yeah, Joe, this is, we're regrouping right now, so I don't have anything more to report to you right now. You can call me back next week. So, okay. Called him back next week, cell phone disconnected. So any chance I had of doing this live just evaporated. Now, there was always this idea of a legacy component to tap bridge music, which would have been some way for you to dial in the music from a kiosk or something, and that was going to happen after it was done. But now that the live event was mooted, that legacy project became the installation that we now know as bridge music. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to take a video tour, okay? The tour takes you out onto the bridge. It shows you what bridge music became. This is what bridge music is now. It's a public sound art installation that you can access. The radio component you can access 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the kiosk you can access from April to November, beginning of November. Although I would caution you right now with the way things are, maybe you wouldn't want to go out and touch the buttons and everything right now, but you can listen to it on your radio. So what we're going to hear right now is the tour of the bridge music installation. So the first thing you need to know, it's not the walkway over the Hudson. It's the Mid-Hudson Bridge. They're very close. Mid-Hudson Bridge, not the walkway. You go to Gerald Drive in Poughkeepsie, you'll see that zigzag sidewalk takes you up to the sidewalk. There are signs down at the bottom of the sidewalk, interpretive signs telling you what you're going to see, what you're going to experience. You see the picture on the left has arrows to direct you to the towers. So you make your way up, and you see the walkway, the railings are high enough so there's no fear of falling over, but it is pretty narrow. You make your way to the tower, you follow the signs, you can't get lost, and you come upon the bridge music listening station. It's a sign with 2 speakers and buttons, so the sign tells you what songs you'll be listening to, tells you how long the songs are, so if you're in a hurry, you can pick one of the short ones. The images show you parts of the bridge that are being used. And you see that there's plenty of room for groups of people to go. I actually hear from yoga people who go there and do their stretches in the morning to the music. And you see the buttons are low enough to the ground that even a kid could reach them. Now this is on the other side of the river. It's the same side. This is the same sign. This is in Highland at Johnson Iorio Park. And if you're not digging heights or you're not digging bridges, you can tune into 95.3 FM on both sides of the bridge. And it's very, very located. It's you can't get it if you drive away. But you can hear it on your radio all year long, 95.3 FM. And that's the that's the installation. You can access it from both sides of the river. So after bridge music was out into the world, the album came out. It was quite successful. It made it to the Billboard top 20 of the classical crossover charts. Got up to 18, I think it was. And it did pretty well. But then I remembered this was supposed to be the Eiffel Tower originally. So now I had something to show for my efforts. It wasn't just this idea. It showed that I could work with a government, showed that I was a legitimate musician. It showed that it was successful. I mean, we had stories in the New York Times, as you saw, Reuters, we saw Japan, Russia, everywhere. So it was successful. Now, before we go into a little bit of tower music, I can stop and take some questions now. Be happy to do so.
Jeff, do we have any questions specifically of bridge music? And we'll have time at the end as well.
We have not yet received any questions in the chat, but if anyone has any questions at this point, they can feel free to type them in or ask them out loud.
No questions means they understood it, everything I just said.
Is one of your gongs a tam-tam?
Yes, I use the word gong collectively, so I don't have to say, what they are, but it's a very good question from Cliff in North Carolina. Is that where you are?
Yep, we're in Asheville, North Carolina. And the reason I asked that is we have the Asheville Symphony. We have a great conductor, new music director called Darko Butaruz. He has a Friday night music trivia game, which is a lot of fun. But one of the things he has a tam-tam. And he says, every musician should have a tam-tam. That's why I knew to ask if you had one.
All right. Well, here's a little bit of music theory for you. A gong includes tam-tams. But strictly speaking, a gong is tuned, has a knob on it. And a tam-tam is always flat and doesn't have a very focused pitch. Like those were melodic sounds. Tam-tam is flat and gives you a wash of sounds. Let me give you a little strike here. That bullseye up there, that's typically what you see. It's called a chow gong, but is known as a tam-tam. I think tam-tam is more of a European word, but these give you more of a wash of sound. So there, in a nutshell, is the difference between a gong and a tam-tam. Thank you, Cliff. Any other questions?
Okay, we can grab them at the end too.
Hi, it's Andre. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Andre.
Hi. Now, this isn't music related, but I always wonder about the fear of, did you have any fear doing this? It looked pretty precarious while you were up there. Scary.
Yeah, my father always used to say, Joey, I don't want you to fall off the bridge. And I always used to say to him, I don't want to fall off the bridge either. So things you don't know until you start. All the surfaces that I wanted to record, I was expecting, we were going to have a group of 26 people playing the live bridge music. So I wanted them to be safe, and I didn't want to ask them to do anything that I wouldn't do. So although I'm not afraid of heights unless it's like, something that seems dangerous. But I said to myself, I can't ask anybody to do anything that I wouldn't do myself. So I went to every place underneath the bridge, on top of the bridge, on the sidewalks, just so I could say, from firsthand knowledge what it was like being up there. I recorded I sampled is the correct word. I sampled the sounds of the bridge mostly from the sidewalk. So there's like a drainage grate where rain and snow drop through, the spindles, the handrails. The only parts that I wasn't standing on the ground for myself was those suspender ropes that hold the deck up in the air. I don't have that kind of insurance. So I asked the bridge authority if we engaged a couple laborers for 3 days to just be with me as I was recording, or to go up onto the arc that's called the main cable of the bridge, and to record those sounds. As you saw in that video, the guy was climbing up to it. But even when I went to the Eiffel Tower, I had ideas to go to places that were not on the flat ground, but they said, you know, you can't do any climbing. But based on your what you presented to us, all the types of metal that you want to play, you can reach from either a stair or a platform. So it might have looked precarious. That's kind of good for the mystique, but it wasn't.
I have a question. I'm wondering if the weather made a difference. Would the sound change with more humid weather?
Yeah, that's a good question. We had 3 days in 2000. Oh,
want to hear it? Do you want to hear it?
Yeah. Hello. I had 3 days in 2006 to record most of the sounds. Temperature was about 100 degrees those 3 days. In 2007, I went back for 2 more days just to get some other sounds, and the temperature was 80 degrees. So that's a pretty significant difference. And what we did was we did some test samplings to see if there was any difference in sound, and there really wasn't. I imagine if it was like 60 or 50 degrees, there might be a difference, but we didn't experience anything with that 20-degree change of weather. And if we were going to do this live and the temperature changed so much that the pitches weren't there, I mean, I guess we could have plugged in the original samples to trigger every time somebody hit something. But I guess the idea is that everything would have shifted equally. So yeah, temperature did come into play. I did try to prepare for it. When we were on the Eiffel Tower, we had some sunny days, we had some stormy days. I don't think it made a difference in the end.
Okay.
Thank you, Frederick.
Yeah. Joe, so we can take questions at the end as well, continued discussion on bridge music. So do you want to head into tower music, Joe? Tower music.
Well, that's my team right there. You saw that we had, it was just myself and Ron Kunka, there's 2 of us, and the help of the Bridge Authority laborers. And when I was at the Eiffel Tower, we had some security that was with us the whole time as well. Yeah, about a year after bridge music launched, I said to myself, you know, this was supposed to be the Eiffel Tower. And then I said, now I have something to show for this. I do have a concept, proof of concept. And I contacted the Eiffel Tower. I had to look up how to contact the Eiffel Tower. I found that the mayor, I mean, some of this is very clear in hindsight, but it wasn't clear when I was starting this. There's no playbook for this. This was never done before, which is what both the Bridge Authority and the Eiffel Tower people told me when I asked them for their protocols. So I learned that the mayor of Paris is nominally in charge of all the things that happen within the city environs. So I wrote this beautiful letter that I had translated into French from Christine Reno at Vassar College and two of her associates, and Peter Leonard put me in touch with her. And they translated it into the elegant kind of French you would want to send to the mayor of a major city, saying what I would like to do, and could he put me in touch with, the appropriate people. And I enclosed a bridge music album and a nice prospectus showing what I was going to do there. I had pictures of the places the surfaces I wanted to play, and the whole process. So I sent that. I waited about 2 weeks. I called the mayor's office. She said, no, we didn't receive it. Would you care to send it again? So I did send it again. I ended up doing this 6 times. Got to know the secretary pretty well. Finally, she said they did get it. And I figured, well, all right, nothing more I can do. I got to wait to hear from them. And about a month later, I got a letter from, it's more than a month, but I got a letter from one of the ministers of culture of Paris. And he said he would send it off to the appropriate people. Again, there was no more I could do. I was happy. If it happened, it happened. Great. Then I was put in contact with the Eiffel Tower, or it's called the Eiffel Tower Operating Company in English. It's got an entirely different sounding name in French. And I made an appointment to go there and pitch the idea. I went there and pitched the idea. They gave me permission, told me the parameters. I'm making this sound easy, but bridge music was 5 years of work. Most of it was trying to meet people and write letters and raise money. Out of that 5 years, it only took me 9 months to write the music. Tower music was like another 6 years, and then another, well, there was a year in between. So another 6 years, and then a year after that, between the time we finished the album and it was released. So I went there, I met the chief engineer, showed him what I wanted to do, and they allowed me to come in with my team. We had to be vetted. We just went. I did everything I did on the tower that I did on the bridge. So it's not as if I did the bridge so that I could do the Eiffel Tower. I never thought I was going to get permission to do the Eiffel Tower. But since I did the bridge, I used that, and it got me to that point. So in 2013, I went and sampled all the surfaces. The album came out in the album was finished in 2015, and it was released in 2016. So it was a very long process. Again, most of that time was writing letters and going down dead ends, finding sponsors. That took 9 months as well. So you figure 18 months of me doing what I wanted to do, tucked into 13 years of the other stuff, while I had full-time employment and had a family. So I got to give props to my family and to the places where I worked for allowing me to do this. Why don't we listen now to another excerpt from Tower Music. Again, this is 1.5 minutes. It is similar to Meltdown. It's the overture that opens the album.
Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Here we go.
Yep.
Okay. Teresa?
Yes, go ahead, Joe.
Take this back to the beginning and let this play to the very end, because there's something I hope people will find humorous at the end.
Okay.
Go. emergency. Okay, so that's a little taste of that. And you can hear all this music by buying the albums. You can hear little bits of them by going online to those different links that I had right there on that page. So, do we have any questions?
Hi, Joe. This is Sammy Lee. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Hi.
Cool. I wrote this in the chat as well, but I just wanted to let you know that we became interested in this because last year, my husband and I and our kids, we bought one of the houses under the Mid-Hudson Bridge. It's the one with the long white front porch that you actually could see from one of your slides there. And so, you know, we're musicians and we got excited that you had, the realtor told us that you played the bridge. And we were like, what? So number one, we can hear the kiosk when we're sitting outside and we can hear the music.
Very cool.
But now we're going to go up and we're actually going to listen to it. And hopefully we can even tune into that radio station that you mentioned from our house. So very excited and thank you for doing this. And, you know, we're big supporters of the walkway as well.
Very good. Thanks. I hope we meet sometime. You're very close to the bridge. Maybe we'll, when this is all over, we'll meet sometime.
I would love that. Please stop by on Oaks Road when this is all over and meet my family. I'd love to see you.
Sure. Well, you can go to my website and send me an email or so I remember your name and everything. Okay?
Will do.
Cool.
Oh, sorry. One more thing. If you ever do decide to do a live performance, we volunteer to help you. There's 4.
Okay. That reminds me of a story. I'm not sure if my wife is tuned in on this one. I wrote an orchestral ballet score, and it's about, it's sort of a Romeo and Juliet type story that actually was a true story that happened during the wars in Sarajevo. And in the course of the story, there's like a scene of a firing squad. And my wife and her friend Andre, who asked me a question earlier today, they would always ask me if they could be in the ballet if it ever got mounted. So I said, sure, you could be in the firing squad scene, which I thought was funny. So there you go. Next question.
Well, just a comment about the firing squad. I don't know if you heard the story about when Tosca was being performed and they got some students as the firing squad and they were told to exit with the principals. So when Tosca jumped off the balcony, they did too.
Yeah, I don't think that's what Puccini had in mind.
Joe, we got a couple questions in the chat that we could get to. Were you ever able to have a live performance on the bridge?
No. You know, the whole thing was predicated on getting that sponsorship during the quadricentennial. The quadricentennial came and went. There's no compelling event to hook it onto, and it's expensive endeavor. I will say that I have been in touch with the administration of the Eiffel Tower to do tower music live, for which I got permission during the 2024 Paris Olympics. Now, I got their permission. I don't have the funding yet. So I have to hear back. First of all, I got their permission. I have to hear back from the 3 Olympic committees that I know of. There's the IOC, International Olympic Committee. Below that, there's the Organizing Olympic Committee, which helps keep things on track. And then there's the National Olympic Committee, in this case, the French Olympic Committee. So I would have to hear back from all 3 of them that they want this to represent the Olympics in 2024. And I really can't do any fundraising or anything, go to any corporations or anything like that before I get that commitment. But I can do it in theory. I have permission from the chief engineer of the Eiffel Tower. So if anybody out there is listening and they want in on this, let me know. I think would be really great. Of course, the world has changed quite a bit, but we'll see. It's a cool idea. And in any event, I did what I set out to do. I set out to harvest the sounds from the bridge and the Eiffel Tower and make music, and that exists, and you can enjoy that.
Joe, one more question. Were there any instruments that you were unable to use because they may have damaged the bridge?
Any like drumsticks, you mean? Well, I studied I had pretty much every angle covered. When you strike something else, the thing you strike it with, if it's harder than what you're hitting, you're going to dent it or abrade it. So I made sure that, of course, the wood and the rubber and the latex mallets that I had are not harder than the steel. But I did use some hammers, and I made sure that they were of a lesser density, a lesser hardness than the kind of bridge that was used on the Mid-Hudson Bridge. Oh, I'm trying to think. There's a couple of different kinds, but it's like a carbon steel. There's so many cool things I learned in this. There's all these different grades of steel. You can't use a really rigid. You would want the bridge not to fall down, right? But just like a tree, you want the tree to like move a little bit with the wind so it doesn't fall over. They need to use a kind of steel that is so rigid that the wrong kind of stress on it would crack it. So they use what's called a soft steel. And I wouldn't recommend banging your head against the handrail because it's still pretty hard stuff, but it does have a little bit of a give. So the implements that I used to drum on the bridge were all softer than the bridge. Same thing on the Eiffel Tower. The friction of, some of the hammers I used, I poured some liquid rubber on them so it hardened right away, and it allowed me to hit the bridge and get a different sound from just metal against metal. It was like the density of the metal with the rebound of rubber hitting it. So you'll see some pictures where it looks like there's these old black marks that I have left on the bridge. Most of that is just rubber that's coming off my metal hammer. Did we abrade the paint? Yeah, I mean, that kind of friction of hitting something, we did abrade it in little spots, but they have something for that. It's called paint. So bridge is back in action the way it was intended to be, and now you can listen to it, and hopefully someday we'll do the bridge live, and we'll buy a couple extra buckets of paint and fix it up when we're done.
Well, how about a big virtual round of applause for our guest, Joe Bertolozzi, here this afternoon.
Yay.
Yay.
Joey, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
A terrifically interesting story. If anyone wants to hear this lecture again or wants to share it with someone who's unable to join us, we will post video on our Facebook page and on our website, walkway.org, as soon as we have it available. I'd look for it tomorrow or Tuesday. We have another lecture coming up next week, same time, same channel, where we're going to talk to Peter Bunton about the history of the Underground Railroad in the Mid-Hudson Valley. So a historical lecture next week at 1 p.m. We hope that you will be able to join us at that time. So again, we thank Joe Bertolozzi for telling us all about bridge music. We hope that the next time you're outside, you head over there and experience it live, well, on tape, live for yourself. Joe, thanks again, and everybody enjoy the rest of your afternoon.